Hey everybody, it's Jim here, and recently I've been working on a lot of guitars that are not my own. I've had a shop that has been paying me to restore, refurbish, and repair all sorts of different makes and models, which is leading for a lot of fun videos and more upcoming. But in the meanwhile, I managed to bring back one of the channel favorite guitars back to life, and that is the Classic Vibe, well, not really anymore, but Jaguar. This guitar was missing a neck since I sold the American Vintage 65 neck about 6 months ago. This guitar's body was just sitting in the closet. I replaced it with this Mexican 9.5-inch radius classic player neck that I found on sale that has a Pau Ferro fingerboard. I'm gonna be telling you what I think about it, some tips if you're planning on installing it, and just Pau Ferro in general, because that is a hot button topic with a lot of people. Now, I'm not going to be doing a full demo of this guitar for this video. I just wanted to talk about the neck and some of the installation tips I had for you guys. But if you're curious what parts I chose on this guitar, I do have the Fender Japan vibrato system. I do have the Fender Japan Mustang bridge that is for a 9.5-inch radius. That's important. If you're getting a Mustang bridge, make sure it matches the radius of the neck that you're going to be using on it. This came with EP Customs hand wound pickups in it when I initially bought it, so those are still in there. CTS pots and upgraded switches from Angela. That's pretty much it. The neck, I put on the Goto vintage locking style tuners from the Hybrid 2 series that I rave about every single time that they come up in conversation. They're just some of my favorite tuners out there. That's the entire build. Now, the first thing I'd like to talk about here is what was the build quality and quality control like on this neck? I am a little bit critical of Fender Mexico for not always being the most consistent. That's not to say that you don't get gems once in a while here, but as a whole here, I expected to do a little bit of work on these frets to get them going. They're actually not bad. This guitar was very playable out of the box in that sense. There were no really high frets as far as I needed to immediately sand them down or get them level using something like the fret kisser from Stu Mac. The guitar was really set up really well the neck was matching into the guitar. Once it was strung up and the nut was filed down, I didn't have to do anything. And honestly, I don't have a lot of complaints with this neck. Considering that I got this at a third of the regular price, I'd say that I'd absolutely recommend doing it again. Would I pay the full $300? I mean, the problem with Jaguars is you do not have a ton of options as far as aftermarket. There's no American-made ones that are widely available in production from Fender. So the majority of the ones you're gonna see pop up for sale are from places like the Stratosphere, as far as not being one of these classic players or one of the Vintera necks. You sometimes will see some of the Squire aftermarket necks, but I actually had a harder time finding one of those than I did this guy. And once in a blue moon, you'll find something American, but the prices on those can be a little bit crazy. So as far as value-wise, I think this is a pretty solid deal. Even at the full price of $300, I would just fish for paying a little bit less. And just for a minute here, I'd like to talk about Pau Ferro. As you can see, on your right, you're gonna be looking at the rosewood fingerboard. On your left, you're gonna be looking at the Classic Player Pau Ferro one. To me, if a guitar is going for a classic aesthetic and a classic design, the rosewood just looks infinitely better. But I will say this, the Pau Ferro on a lighter body color, and the shell pink obviously falls into this category, I don't think it looks that bad. The problem is this. I've seen a lot of videos where people buy the Pau Ferro necks knowing that they hate the color of it, and they try all sorts of things in order to dye or to change the color. If you want to do that, you can. I just wouldn't advise it because it's not what you really want. If you're somebody who's really, really stuck in your ways, you have to have rosewood. Save up or wait it out and get the real rosewood, because at the end of the day, you're just not gonna be happy with the Pau Ferro if you're going strictly for vintage. If you're more open-minded, playability-wise, really, the feel of the actual necks themselves is not too different outside of the actual shape. And well, the Japanese neck had way better attention to detail as far as the fretwork on it. But as a whole here, it's nothing that this guitar wouldn't be able to achieve in that sense. And it's certainly not held back tonally because it's Pau Ferro and not rosewood. And now I'm going to address some frequently asked questions as far as the actual installation goes of this neck to a Classic Vibe. Now, one question I was asked a lot when I put the American vintage neck onto the Classic Vibe body also applies here, and that was, did I need to modify the body cavity at all in order to get it to fit in well? And the answer to that, thankfully, is no. The Classic Vibes are actually cut correctly as far as the neck heel goes onto here, so it drops right in. It's a very easy fit. That is good news, and not all Squires are like that. I have not had any luck with the paranormal range as far as fitting in Fender necks out of the factory, but I digress. We're talking about Classic Vibe. Another common question I see is, once the neck is connected to the body, because there's no problems getting them to mate together, and you have strings on it, can you play the guitar as is? Because Fender states that it does come with a pre-slotted bone nut, and if you read some of the reviews from some of these websites like Amazon and Musician's Friends, some people are saying, I didn't need to do anything to them, I could play it straight away. I mean, maybe you could, but ideally, really, you're still going to want to file it down with a set of files that match the string gauge that you want to play. When it says it's pre-slotted, it just means the string spacing is going to be correct for that neck. If you're going to be using an aftermarket nut, which is what I did, this is a pure bone nut, not the synthetic one that came with it, you want to make sure that it's going to actually mate with the actual neck. Once you've done that, we can get into the filing process. The number one piece of advice, if you take nothing away from this video and you're somebody who is new to filing your own nut, you have to go slow. Trust me, if it feels like it's taken forever, you'd much rather it take forever and you don't overfile, because what will happen is you'll basically render the nut useless outside of some emergency compound that you could put in, but really you never want it to come to that point. You want it done the first time correctly. A good way to do this is you can use a guitar that you already have set up really well as a reference point. And luckily for me, I have a Jaguar that I love. This is the Japanese one. What I did was took a ruler and I measured the exact string height at the first fret coming out of the nut to know what to shoot for, because this guitar already feels great. You're gonna be seeing that data on the screen right now. And then when it came to actually filing down on the pink guitar, it was so simple. I had my reference number. I would just individually remove the string out like so, move, file, put it back on, check, rinse and repeat. Make sure that you don't overdo it. I cannot stress it enough. But after that, you're all good. And just remember, whenever you're setting up a Fender Jaguar or Jazzmaster guitar, you want to make sure that you have a decent break angle coming off of the bridge to create the downforce so that the strings aren't going to hop out of the saddles. And that's pretty much all there is to installing this neck onto your guitar. If you follow the steps and you actually have decent tools to do it, I would rate it a 2 out of 10 as far as difficulty goes. Anybody can do it. Just take your time. Not that bad. And coming from somebody who greatly prefers rosewood because I like things to look the way they used to. Yes, I'm stuck on my ways, but at least I acknowledge it. I don't think this looks bad because this is a lighter body color, as I stated before. And that's pretty much all I wanted to go over today. If you guys are interested in seeing me compare this guitar with the Fender Japan Jaguar, we can do that, but that guitar is getting its own video. We're going to be comparing the V-Mod pickups that come stock in it with the Lindy Fralin stock plus 10 overwound in the bridge set that I recently just picked up, so that should be a lot of fun. I'm also going to be showing you how to change pickups in a Jaguar, because since we did not on this one, I thought that it would be fun to actually film it. I haven't done this for this channel before on the Green Jag. Like, comment, subscribe. If you have any other specific questions, let me know. Open forum down below, and I'll see you on the next video. Take it easy.